Hello, and welcome back to the Pink Sofa Hour. I'm your host, Pedro, and I'm joined today by Christopher Morse. Hello.
How's it going?
It's going really well. How are you today?
I'm great. Excited to be here.
Nice. I'm excited to have you on the sofa. We've talked about this for quite some time.
Yeah, yeah. It's been I don't know, an exciting lead up.
Yeah, I feel like we've had a nice time sort of interacting through social media at first with Instagram and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But then you decided to show up to one of my open mics, which warms my heart always when
Yeah.
good musicians decide to roll through. And seeing your talent in person really made me feel so much better that like you're gonna be here. It definitely just settled. I didn't have any doubts about it, but it really inspired me to look forward to this episode.
Cool. Well, thank you. I love that open mic. That's one of the best ones I've ever been to, and met a lot of great people. And yeah, I look forward to going back when I can.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. But this episode is not about my open mic. It's about you. So, Christopher or Chris, which one would you prefer me to use today?
You can use either one. I figure there's so many Chris's out in the world, and not many people go by Christopher, so I thought it'd be fun to use Christopher for my music stuff.
I think it has a nice sort of formality to it. I like that. It feels like it almost stems potentially from a more formal origins, perhaps, which leads me to my next point. The American Boy Choir School.
Yeah.
You have a very unique start, and putting that out as sort of how it is that you originally got into doing music is fascinating to me because, in particular, I think singers have just so much color, so much control in their voice when they start singing early. And I think that you definitely match that criteria, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about how it is that you got into singing?
Yeah, well, first of all, both my parents are classical musicians, so I was brought up in that world, and I went to a summer camp at this place called the American Boy Choir School, and I auditioned and didn't hear anything, and my family and I were living in Canada at the time, and it was, I think, in February of my 5th grade year, we got a call saying a spot opened up, we'd love to have you. And so my parents asked me if I wanted to basically leave home and go to boarding school in 5th grade when I was 10.
Wow. That's intense.
Yeah.
That's quite a decision to make.
Yeah, and I said, yeah, let's do it. So the school was in New Jersey, my family was in Canada at the time.
And they all moved down, or did you just go by yourself to boarding school? Because
originally I went down by myself. Well, they moved me in and stuff, but and then I think a year or so into it, my parents found jobs closer and they moved to New Jersey also. But I still stayed at the school. I had the full boarding school experience at a very young age.
That's tough. In 5th grade, just kind of being away from your parents for, what was it, like a 4-year program or?
Yeah, it was 5th through 8th grade. So mostly before everyone's voices had changed. So I was singing those super high soprano parts.
Jealous. I always wanted to be able to be a tenor when I was in high school choir, but my timbre probably gives away what my range is.
Yeah, you've got that great bassy tone. It's really good for narration and radio. That's great.
You know, that does come in handy once in a while, I could say that. That was really cool though. And you did a little bit of like touring and stuff with this association, this school, right?
Yeah, that was a big part of it. So the way it was set up was the school was split up into 3 choirs, and at any given point during the year, at least one choir was out on the road. So yeah, I got to see a bunch of the country. I unfortunately didn't get to go on any international tours while I was there, but
did they do those as well, or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. While I was there were tours to Japan and South Africa, I believe.
Wow, that is a very well-connected sort of experience to be a part of at such an early age. So, like, some of my questions that always pop up during these interviews is like, how did you get into performance? But it's pretty obvious that, at least from the professional perspective, that's kind of what formed the core of your experience at first.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you do any like singing in the kitchen with, like, you know, your family, since they were musicians? Like, did they teach you a little bit about how to sing?
No, neither of my parents are formally trained in singing.
What instruments do they play? Out of curiosity.
They both play viola.
Wow, two violists.
Yeah.
Dating. Married.
Yeah.
I mean, that's... I don't want to get into the cliches around viola, but...
Yeah.
Let's leave that for another time. But all the classical enthusiasts out there, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Violists. And
Yeah.
That's super cool, though. Do you play any other stringed instruments other than the guitar?
Starting at like 3, maybe 4, I was handed a violin, and I played that for, I don't know, 5, 6 years, but I didn't enjoy it, and so I dropped it as soon as I went to the boy choir school, and then eventually picked up guitar.
It's funny that a violist would hand you a violin. I feel like
Yeah.
there's something very poetic about that. But that's cool. It seems like music just kind of runs in your blood, at least from that side of the family.
Yeah, I didn't really have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With two classically trained musicians, that tends to happen quite a bit. So talk to me a little bit about how you got into doing the music that you're doing now. This process that you've kind of taken on of creative self-discovery, having that vulnerability, putting out these songs that are so heartfelt and emotional. I think that that's kind of takes a lot of courage, and not everybody who's a musician ends up in that position. So
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, this has been a long journey, and I started playing out at open mics and coffee houses and stuff right out of college, which was on the East Coast, and it got to the point where I was doing the circuit between like DC up through New York City, and then I moved out.
Where were you based? New Jersey?
I was in New Jersey, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Then I moved out here, and for whatever reason, just put the guitar away, and it ended up being 6 or 7 years that I didn't touch it.
Huh.
And it was actually during the COVID lockdown, I thought, well, I'm going to be stuck inside a lot. Might as well pick up the guitar and see if there's anything there still. And it's just snowballed, and it's been a really, really fun ride.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
You said that you played a lot at like coffee shops and stuff. Were you doing like covers or just kind of still working on original music back then that was kind of like unreleased?
Yeah, it was a mix of originals and covers. A bigger percentage of covers for sure than I do now. And I never did any formal release when I was back on the East Coast. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
yeah, but I did have like little burned CDs that I would sell at my shows and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just written on with Sharpie.
There's so many musicians out there that have like this talent that they don't show in the whole like marketing world scene of music business kind of stuff. But I can really appreciate the fact that you've been putting a lot of work towards that side of it. It is not easy as a musician to undertake both the creative endeavor of writing music, but also the pseudo-creative, slightly kind of like business-oriented mentality of like, how do I sell this?
Yeah.
Right? It involves a lot of different kinds of self-discovery and lots of different questions about how you want to be presented, how it is that people see you, reconciling these things and kind of accepting what it is that your role is to play in people's ears, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something I'm still figuring out.
Oh yeah, it's a lifelong process.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And I feel like I've done a decent job of showing people the product, like here are the finished songs, and go check this out. But I'm wanting to show more of who I am in what I post, and so people can get to know me better and not just know the songs and understand where they came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you were born in Canada?
I was born outside of Philly.
Okay.
And then moved to Canada, got my dual citizenship, and then came back to the States.
Cool, okay.
Yeah.
So from Philly to Canada to New Jersey, stayed in New Jersey, family moved to New Jersey, and then how'd you end up in Colorado?
I moved out here for a girl.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is it the current girl?
No.
Oh.
No.
It was a previous girlfriend.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, so she got a job out here. We hadn't been together that long, and she asked me if I wanted to come, and I ended up coming to Colorado.
It's intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as soon as we moved in together, things started going downhill. But it got me out here, and I'm so glad I came. I love Colorado. The people here are great. Obviously, the mountains and all the outdoor stuff is a ton of fun, too.
Oh, yeah. I definitely agree with you there. Colorado has been just tremendously healing for me, being from the East Coast as well. That's interesting. That's really interesting. So, your music in general has a lot of, like I said, heartfelt, sort of emotional stuff. It doesn't surprise me at all that you'd move across the country to be with girl, just based on listening to some of your songs. But does your process entail usually writing about things that have happened to you, or is it sometimes more creative in the sense of, like, I'm going to invent a story? Is it stuff that sometimes, like, you see in, like, your friend's circle that you want to write about? Where does a song start for you?
Yes.
Just yes. All the above.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mix of stuff. I try and at least put a little element of myself in everything I write, because I feel like that's what gives the most authentic story and song. But there might be some embellishment or borrowing from friends' stories or whatever to sort of flesh things out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you do a lot of recording as well. I feel like anytime I look at your Instagram, you're either in the studio or you're posting about, like, your writing process and stuff like that. Do you find yourself approaching the recording side of things a little differently than how it is that you do your songwriting? Or, I guess, let me specify a little bit more. When you're in the studio doing recording, I'm not sure if you do it like bedroom recording style or you actually go to, like, a professional studio. Sometimes people reserve that studio time because they feel inspired when they're there, as opposed to, I have a song, it's ready to go, and I want to spend this time specifically on recording this.
Yeah, I would love to just rent studio time and see what comes out. I haven't done that yet. Everything I've recorded so far has been pre-written, and the parts have been mostly fleshed out, and then we just go into the studio and record it. And obviously, whenever you're recording, there are things you hear like, oh, this would be cool to add on, or let's take that out or change this here and there. But for the most part, everything is pre-planned and ready to go.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, that's fundamentally a really sane way of going about it.
Yeah.
And it is a fun idea to just kind of put that pressure on yourself that, like, you're paying a certain amount an hour and using that as sort of like a creative adventure. Yeah. But so that kind of stuff is sometimes best left to the psychos that want to put that kind of pressure on themselves.
Yeah, that's a high pressure situation for sure.
Yeah. So speaking of recordings, you just released your full album. Some of them were already released as singles, but the final song on the album finally got put out, and I really like the actual title of the album, Covering Old Scars. I think that's a really meaningful, really obvious almost kind of feeling that it imparts. But what is it that, how is it that you came to title that album? Because it's not any of the actual names of the songs, right?
Right. Yeah, it's not a song title. It is pulled from a lyric in the last song, "Help Me Out," and that song was about. It's basically an anxiety song. So when I wrote it, I wasn't feeling settled with where I was, and I didn't really feel like being around people, but I also didn't feel like being by myself, and I don't know, I just felt unsettled, and that's what ended up coming out, and that "Covering Old Scars" lyric is a part of that song.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually really like the way that lyrics can also encompass the entirety of a whole suite of songs worth of material in terms of, did you write that song first? Is that what kind of gave you the idea to get into the rest of the album, or was there a particular order that they came in?
I didn't write that song first. I'm trying to remember the order that I wrote them in. Yeah, I don't remember the order that they came out in, but yeah, every one of these songs sort of has an element of trying to put a closing to a chapter in the past.
Mm-hmm. Doing some healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Healing or making amends, even if it's just internally with something.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's the most important person to reconcile with, is being able to forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Without that, not a lot of healing can actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
And congratulations, by the way, on releasing the album.
Thanks.
I am stoked whenever I see anybody putting stuff out. The last album that you released was Escape, right? That was 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, how long have you been in Colorado?
I moved out here in 2013.
Wow, okay. That's really cool. So you hadn't really started doing any writing until the pandemic.
Yeah.
That's kind of what brought all that stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
But you've done it a bunch back on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Escape is pretty cool. What were you escaping from? Was it East Coast or?
No, pretty much all those songs are COVID lockdown songs.
Okay.
So wanting to get out of the apartment, just get a change of scenery, and escape, or longing for something, good times that happened in the past. But yeah, wanting to not be stuck in one place.
I can definitely commiserate there. That
Yeah.
was a tough time for everyone. I am curious, were you planning on playing any songs off of that album?
Yeah.
Do you think it would be an appropriate time to get into one of those now, perhaps?
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's do it. Would you like to talk about it a little bit first?
Sure. Well, I actually thought I would play a song that goes with this podcast.
Yeah, you mentioned this.
Yeah.
And I have questions now, actually. So,
Okay.
It's called Pink Flamingo Hotel.
Yeah. Motel, but
Motel.
potato.
Gotcha. Well, there's a difference. There's a pretty significant difference.
Yeah.
That, were you in Miami when you decided to write about Pink Flamingo Hotels? Because I'll tell you, flamingos are kind of the symbol of the state.
Yeah.
And I do obviously like the color pink quite a bit. But what's the story here with this song?
This song was actually born out of just seeing a picture online. And I'd had this chord progression for years, and I couldn't figure out what to do with it. When I saw this picture of a broken down motel with a neon flamingo, and it sparked this story that just came out about people being stuck in this place, whether it's the owner or people who are staying there, and just not being able to get out of their situation.
I see. That's cool. I like that a lot. By the way, everyone, we do have the illustrious mascot of the Pink Sofa Hour, Scooter, here in the studio today with us. He may or may not join in. He has already expressed some pretty distinct appreciation for Chris's singing voice and guitar skills. So I think that in all likelihood he will get up and do something. But just throwing that heads up out there. Anyway, go ahead and take it away, Chris.
All right. I saw her standing there with a tight dress and long hair, cigarette with an orange glow. She had sadness in her eyes, couldn't find a 9 to 5 to feed a few hungry eyes.
There you go.
You can't get out of this cell at the Pink Flamingo Motel. Doing time at Pink Flamingo Motel. He had grease under his nails, got another bill in the mail, on top of being on parole. His sign was flashing vacancy, the pipe sprung another leak, last chance for the lights go out. You can't get out of this cell at the Pink Flamingo Motel. Doing time at Pink Flamingo Motel. One single mistake multiplies its weight. Just trying to survive one night at a time. Oh, here's Scooter's solo. She was built in '53 by a man in the American dream. In a heyday, things were good. They had bookings every night until the money brought greed and spite, and then came the biggest flood. You can't get out of this cell at the Pink Flamingo Motel. We're doing time at Pink Flamingo Motel. Yeah.
Wow, Scooter.
Good singing, dude.
I think he really likes that song.
Yeah.
That's probably the most I've seen him actually interact.
Oh, really?
In any
That's
given
funny.
single song, yes. That was good. And he even used some dynamics. He was like a little quiet sometimes, a little
Yeah.
louder sometimes. He's very talented. He'll be sending over an invoice later for that.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you so much for that song. That was fantastic. I like the line. She was built in '53. That's kind of a cool sort of almost like Hotel California-esque vibe is something I'm getting. I mean, it is from Escape, which Hotel California is kind of about getting away from that place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great tune, man.
Thank you.
I like it a lot.
Thanks.
That was off of Escape 2021.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Very imaginative stuff. How how did you like playing with Tony Luca?
That was really cool. He has family in Boulder, so he was here hanging out with them, and then I think he just wanted to get a show in while he was here. So I got to open with him, which was great. Super nice guy, incredible performer and storyteller.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great to hopefully absorb some of that wisdom and experience
He's
through
prestigious
osmosis.
dude. Yeah, man. That's super cool that you got to do that. I've heard of him before this point, and I'm pretty amazed when I saw that on your website that you got to hang out with him a little bit. So before we move on to the next performance section, that one might be coming through a little bit, but is there anything that you'd like to touch on with regards to this most recent album that you released, in regards to like where can you find it to stream? How do you listen to it?
Sure, yeah, you can find it wherever you stream music. Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, Amazon, Tidal, or, I mean, there are a million different streaming services. Hi, buddy. And I'm pretty sure it's on every single one of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
How do you distribute all that stuff? Do you work with like a particular label, or is this all self-released right now?
It's all self-released, but I've chosen to use CD Baby.
Oh, I've heard good things about them.
As my distributor, yeah.
Nice.
And a little shout out to CD Baby. I chose them because they were sort of an all-inclusive package, and you just pay for the full album or song or whatever, and you don't have to worry about it getting taken down. And I know with some other distributors you have to keep paying every year or whatever it is.
Nice.
And I didn't want to have to worry about that because I know myself, and I know I might forget to do that, and then my stuff could get taken down, and that's a whole mess I don't want to get into.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we will be checking in for just 1 minute with Scooter and seeing if he wants to participate in this next song. So we'll be right back.
It's funny, Angels mentioned
We're back. Scooter pretty much sounds like me attempting to reach Chris's vocal range. He has a very distinct voice. One that he needs a little bit of practice really nailing some of those high notes, but I consider it to be very beautiful.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
And by the way, we do have a live chat in front of us here, so if you want to say hello or yeehaw, yeehaws in the chat is kind of the traditional Pink Sofa greeting from the guests. And if you have questions, feel free to type them in, and we will be addressing them towards the end of the program.
Sweet. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why I started that, but it's kind of funny. I love it.
Yeah, cool.
It's a great saying. So, you've done a lot of shows, a lot of different tours also. Not necessarily as your current music, but in general, you've had a lot of experience out on the road with a lot of other musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any favorite stories that you'd like to tell us of, like, moments of crazy things happening or particular favorite places that you've played?
Um, well, there was a place that's not around anymore, unfortunately, called Kathmandu in Trenton, New Jersey. And there was a really cool singer-songwriter scene there, and I made some really, really great friends at that place. There was like a weekly songwriter showcase. I would just go there whether I was playing or not. And that was sort of how I started to build my first network of singer-songwriters. So shout out to guys like Jim Gavin, John Law, Liz Longley was there a few times. She's incredible. Mary Scholes, who's now out in LA.
I feel like I've heard of her.
Yeah, she's an awesome Americana singer-songwriter.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool. She played with Madeline Hawthorne before. She was just here playing with Travis McNamara.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen their name together on a bill. Maybe they've been chatting.
I don't know if they've played together, but their styles would be great for a show.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Very cool. So, yeah, too bad about that place.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bummer, but it happens. It's cool that you got to meet so many people, though.
Yeah, and another fun story, not from me playing.
As many fun stories as you want, by the way. I'm
yeah.
a huge fan.
Yeah, but when I was in high school, a singer-songwriter guy who I had seen on MySpace, and I was digging his stuff, he was coming up through New Jersey, and he sent a message out on MySpace saying, like, hey, we don't have a place to crash tonight. Can anyone put us up? And my parents were out of town, so I thought, come hang out at my house.
In high school?
Yeah, in high school. And these
that.
guys were, probably 21, 23, and I was maybe a junior.
Oh, man, that must have been interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. They were super cool, really chill guys.
Okay, good, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like a rock and roll rager where they destroyed the hotel room or anything.
That's the first image that came to mind.
Yeah.
Just like your parents coming back when their house was burned down. And
yeah,
our band is playing in the ashes of the house. Like,
yeah. Our neighbor at the time was some kind of high-level special forces guy, and so he had seen this trailer pull up to the house and 3 men go in, and he knew my parents were away.
Yeah.
And so he was all suspicious, and he told my parents about it when they got back. And so I got into a little bit of trouble, but it was a ton of fun. And then the songwriter who stayed at my house is now an incredible writer in Nashville. He has written some huge songs. So it's really cool to connect with him, and I would love to connect with him more, but he's busy doing all kinds of awesome things.
Nashville is one of those towns that everybody's always very musically occupied.
Yeah.
Which is great, honestly. Yeah. That town supports music really well, and I think that you'd be obviously a really good fit with that whole like country folk, indie pop sort of scene that is just like so prevalent there.
Well, thank you. That's awesome to hear. I've never been down there, but I would love to go and just check it out, and maybe play a show if I can. But yeah, I've never been to Nashville, and a handful of people have told me you need to check it out, and that I might fit in really well there.
Yeah, I mean, bring your guitar for sure.
Yeah.
There's no telling how many random shows you might be able to just pull, just showing up and being like, hey, you guys want some music?
Yeah.
Most people would probably just jump at the chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, you're published. You've got stuff out there. You could just point people in that direction, and I'm sure it'd be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of playing some music, I was hoping to hear a couple more songs.
Sure.
Do you have any that you'd like to hop on right now?
Yeah. I'll do one that was sort of in between Escape and this latest release. It was released as a bonus song in the acoustic version of Escape.
A little standalone single.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's called 900 Square Feet. And I wrote it when I was frustrated with our living situation at the time. Because we had been talking about trying to buy a house, and that's obviously crazy expensive.
It gets that way, yeah. Especially in Colorado.
Yeah, so I was frustrated with, stuff being broken, or lights not working, or neighbors being too loud, and so it started off as a song complaining about all the stuff that I didn't like in our living situation, and then it turned into a song about being grateful for what we do have. So I try and put a positive spin on things when I can, and I feel good about how that came out with this song.
Yeah, that seems very relatable and lovely.
Yeah.
So let's get right into it.
All right. How does our floor make that sound? The bathroom faucet won't stop dripping. The upstairs neighbor's so damn loud. It seemed so empty when we moved in. Now it's filled with memories. The tipsy nights with wine in my gin. Laughing so hard we couldn't breathe. We got all that we need. Guitars and sewing machines. Craigslist couch, crooked stove. It's not much, but it's home. We got all that we need. These 900 square feet. It might be nice to have a mansion, chandelier in every room. These halls would echo like a canyon. I need a map to get to you. We got all that we need. Guitars and sewing machines. A Craigslist couch, a crooked stove. It's not much, but it's home. We got all that we need in these 900 square feet. I don't care if we never have the money. If I got you, honey. I don't care if we never have the money. If I got you, honey. We got all that we need. Guitars and sewing machines. A Craigslist couch, a crooked stove. It's not much, but it's home. We got all that we need. Guitars and sewing machines. A Craigslist couch, a crooked stove.
once again, Scooter is enthralled by that one.
Yeah, he did such a good. He came in the choruses almost every time.
He can feel the emotion.
Yeah.
That's pretty much his specialty.
So good.
What a little dude.
Yeah, that's great.
We love a good Scooter litmus test.
That was awesome.
Yeah, dude. I mean that was awesome. Thank you. It is for me. I think always a really amazing privilege to have sort of the front row seat to the Pink Sofa performances. And one of the things that I notice with you in particular is like your voice really is just incredible. Like you have a really you have a voice that a lot of people do a lot of work to attain, but also like it sounds almost processed sometimes. Like after the effects of like a little compression, a little EQing, a little like special juice in the studio that like enhances people's voices, you pretty much get that out like almost right away is what it feels like.
Wow. Thank you so much. What a compliment.
It's true, and it's even more evident right here in seat 1A, I guess we can call this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of like recording and stuff like that, what kind of microphones do you like to use with your voice? Do you have one in particular that you prefer, or you kind of just leave that in the hands of like the recording studio that you use?
Yeah. Good question. I try and keep things as simple as I can in my little, very humble, modest home studio. But I recently got a Rode NTK, which I love. It's a tube mic, so it has that super warm tone. Found a killer deal on it off of Craigslist.
Heck yeah.
Which is great, yeah. But for the most part, I've just used that for getting ideas down at home. And then whenever I go into the studio for real to try and track things, I generally just go with whatever the engineer or producer thinks will fit my voice the best.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rode NTK is a great choice though. That's a heck of a microphone.
Yeah.
Well, we have one Rode in the studio. It's the shotgun mic. I think it's the NT2.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what that one's called? And this guitar also incredible sounding guitar. I love cedar tops. They're really, they complement your voice particularly well because of how like tight the sound is compared to spruce. Spruce kind of has this like warmer sort of stuff, but your voice already has a lot of warmth in it. So putting it next to something that kind of has that tinny sort of dry feeling to it, kind of I think has a nice sort of complementary effect.
Thank you.
Have you had this guitar for a long time?
No, actually, this guitar goes hand in hand with me sort of rebooting my music journey. I got it when COVID was just getting started, and I got the itch for a new guitar. Just came out of nowhere, and spidey senses started tingling, and thought it'd be fun to have another guitar. And so I found this on Craigslist, and one of the guys over at Roots Music Project here in Boulder was selling it. And so I ended up buying this guitar, obviously, and then that's how I got hooked up with Roots. And Rick over there was an incredible guy to work with. He helped me with some vocal technique stuff, just shaking off the rust, and some songwriting stuff, and a little bit of guitar work. So yeah, this guitar actually has a big part in music sort of coming back into my life and snowballing.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you mentioned Roots Music Project, because in fact that was something I was going to sort of segue into eventually. You seem to have started working with them when they were basically getting their start here in Boulder for April 24th, 2021, I think, something like that, was some like songwriter showcase with them, and I'm not even sure that if they had their space yet, because they hadn't even built the stage or anything like that. How was it working with Roots back then?
Incredible. Yeah, everyone over there, they're such great people. super generous with their time, and a big part of their platform is they want to give local artists a voice and sort of shine a light on what local musicians are doing. So I've loved having Roots in my circle, and love going over there for shows whenever I can. And yeah, I got to be a part of putting a series together called The Songwriter's Living Room. And we were sort of trying to replicate what they do at the Bluebird in Nashville, where they have the songwriters in the middle of the room and the audience surrounding them. So there were 4 writers, and everyone, takes turns telling stories and playing, and it having the audience on the outside surrounding the artists makes for a really unique and intimate experience. It was a ton of fun.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's super cool. I also really love the Roots Music Project in general. I think that their mission and the mission of Pink Sofa in general very closely aligned, and I've started to chat with Dave and the rest of the crew over there about all that stuff, and occasionally, happy to always volunteer photo or audio stuff. I think that they're just happy that other people are on the same sort of path, that is great. Living rooms. I'm quite intimately familiar with the living room being a center point, focal situation, perhaps. To those of you who don't know, or it isn't obvious enough, this is my living room. And I love bringing people into this space because I think that it, like you said, it changes the feeling of like being on a stage. It provides people with a little bit more of like an intimate sort of appreciation of the artists, and the artists themselves feel a little bit more intimate with this kind of an experience being live streamed, etc. Primarily because you're in my house. You kind of you pretty much know everything about me once you walk inside the door. I like the color pink, and I also like records, and I have a lot of guitars. But yeah, you also had a little bit of a run of couch sessions for a little while. How was that? Would you like to talk about that for a little bit?
Are you talking about the YouTube videos?
The couch sessions, yes.
Yeah.
I know your couch isn't pink, but it still counts.
Yeah. So that was actually, those were filmed at Dave's place from Roots.
Oh, cool.
That's not my couch. Dave was super generous to let us use his space. And I wanted to do those videos because whenever an artist that I loved listening to came out with a new album, I always was waiting to hear and see a raw live video of just a stripped down performance. And that a big part of that is me wanting to see like what chords they're playing, and see the right hand movement or finger picking pattern. So that's just something I enjoyed watching, and still enjoy watching whenever artists I love come out with new music. So I just thought it'd be fun to put something like that out there.
Totally. A little bit of video presence goes a long way. It shows a lot of the personality and the person behind the music, and you can tell a lot about somebody even by the way they hold the guitar sometimes. It's fascinating stuff, and it's part of most live performances in general. Listening to music, obviously, listening to music is always great, but having an unplugged version also gets you a little closer to sort of what it is that songwriter in particular had in mind for that song.
Yeah.
And, I think that's probably a good place to potentially lead into another song.
Sure.
Do you have one or two more?
Two more.
Two more.
Yeah.
Then let's hop right into it.
If there's time, yeah.
Oh, there's time. And once again, for the audience, we do have the chat up, so feel free to yeehaw and or ask questions. We are listening. And what is this song called?
I'll do "Help Me Out," which has that "Covering Old Scars" line in it.
Just got released yesterday too.
Yeah, yesterday. Losing track of my days here.
I feel you.
And this one, I'm assuming Scooter will join in because there's some howling.
You're 2 for 2 for.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in all likelihood he's gonna do it.
Yeah. Good. Good. I'll have to have him on stage with me. All right. Here we go. I don't really want to go home where I'm all alone inside my head. The shadows are bigger, the feelings that they trigger got me spinning in my bed. Can you help me out? Can you help me out? I'd rather be out at a bar covering old scars with a drink or two. Music's so loud, I fade into the crowd just to find a clone of you. Can you help me out? Can you help me out? What's this feeling? Am I dreaming? What's this feeling? Am I still breathing? Oh, here I am still inside where the TV screen's the only light. How long will I have this skin that I'm living in before I touch the sky? Can you help me out? Can you help me out? What's this feeling? Am I dreaming? What's this feeling? Am I still breathing?
Absolutely lovely, Chris. That was really, really nice.
Thanks.
Yeah. I particularly am fond of the dynamic choice there at the end to slowly fade out. I think that's tough to do with a convincing sort of cadence, you know? Very emotional stuff happens when you play with volume in music. And
Yeah.
I think you definitely got that going pretty well.
Thanks. Yeah, that's not by accident. All of my favorite players do a lot with dynamics, so I try and emulate that. as much as I can.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think that if we would like to play that last song, we should probably just rip right into it.
Okay,
I want to
great.
keep asking about that, honestly, but what do you got left for us?
Yeah, I was going to do Always Been You to close things out, which is the first song off of the new EP.
This one's actually my favorite. I was going to
Cool.
mention that at some point, but I'm glad that you decided to play it, because I think it's the one that I've grown to enjoy the most.
Thanks.
I like the lyrics in particular.
Thanks.
It's nice.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, let's do it. Crazy seeing you in the small town bar tonight. Thought you were out on the west coast with some guy. Way back when we were young in love, holding hands between class, we were so grown up. Your dad got a job, we got pulled apart by life. Baby, I've been gone for so long, trying to find the truth. I mess around with all the wrong ones, 'cause I never do. And every time my heart would break, I was listening to you say, baby, you're the one I want to hold on to. It's always been you. Flip a coaster at the bar as we get caught up on life. 3 or 4 drinks in and we travel back in time. The bonfire nights in the summer air, I was lost in the flames of your boundless stare. We were the only people left on earth that night. Baby, I've been gone for so long, trying to find the truth. I mess around with all the wrong ones, 'cause I never do. Every time my heart would break, I was listening to hearing you say, baby, you're the one I want to hold on to. It's always been you. Good night is like twice. Will this old spark ignite? Our fates intertwine. I see the future in your eyes. Baby, I've been gone for so long, trying to find the truth. I mess around with all the wrong ones, 'cause I never do. Every time my heart would break, I was closer to hearing you say, baby, you're the one I want to hold on to. Baby, I've been gone for so long, trying to find the truth. I mess around with all the wrong ones, 'cause I never do. Every time my heart would break, I was closer to hearing you say, baby, you're the one I want to hold on to. It's always been you. It's always been you. Yeah. It's always been you. 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 Always been you.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Gorgeous. I love that high F sharp on that strumming part at the last, when you start swapping that voicing up for that higher one up
yeah.
in the neck. It just rings out so well.
Thanks.
It's a very nice choice of chord, and very nice choice of what to do with your time of you to be here with me on the sofa. Thank you so much for coming, Chris. It was a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is great.
And once again, congratulations on releasing that album yesterday. You can stream that anywhere you want. You heard the man. Get out there, listen to it. It's really nice. It's emotional and it's heartfelt, and I like it. So, this has been the Pink Sofa Hour. I'm your host, Pedro. Next week we'll be having High Street Revival with Joe. I think you know Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that, and I'm very happy that this episode was made possible by the gracious presence of Christopher Morse. Once again, everyone. Signing off. Have a great rest of your evening.